thousands more for decades. It is clear to the people of Antigua and Barbuda that any assessment of the use of nuclear weapons provides unassailable proof that such weapons cause loss of life and displacement on a catastrophic scale. This destruction also leads to permanent damage to health and the environment and irreparable impediment to socioeconomic development and the social order. This horrific human impact must remain at the forefront of our disarmament efforts because the risk of catastrophic consequences will remain as long as nuclear weapons exist. Further, as Prime Minister of a small island developing state, I am very aware that our strategic location, porous marine borders, and socioeconomic realities leave us as potential soft threats for nuclear terrorism. We also continue to be concerned about the movement of hazardous waste and radioactive material through our regional sea, the Caribbean Sea. As a result, Antigua and Barbuda has historically been committed to nuclear disarmament, as we are aware of the unparalleled harm and destruction that nuclear weapons can pose to humankind. This commitment is in line with the 3 pillars of the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, the NPT, namely disarmament, non-proliferation, and guarantees of the peaceful use of nuclear energy. My country was proudly in the conference stall as the General Assembly passed a historic treaty for the total prohibition of nuclear weapons, the TPNW, in 2017. This treaty will fill the legal gap that currently exists regarding the prohibition and elimination of nuclear weapons, including the general regulation and prohibition against possession, use, development, production, stockpiling, and transfer of such weapons. Antigua and Barbuda ratified the treaty in 2019, and I call upon all member states to sign and ratify the TPNW. At the time of this recording, we are 5 ratifications away from the treaty coming into force. Considering the existential threat that nuclear weapons pose and the lack of recent progress towards eliminating these devastating weapons, achieving the entry into force of the TPNW is of the utmost importance. I must also pay homage to the Treaty of Tlatelolco, established over 50 years ago as the first nuclear weapons-free zone, which instituted the Agency for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Latin America and the Caribbean, OPANAL. The citizens in our region have long appreciated the value in ensuring nuclear disarmament and will lead by example in this regard and continue to resist any interventions that may compromise this. Mr. President, it is clear that nuclear weapons have no utility in today's world. They are not deterrents, but rather cultivate a state of insecurity and false defensiveness that only increases the chances of proliferation with a devastating impact on all of us, far beyond the parties directly involved in the conflict. It must be noted that with all the evidence available to disavow the use of nuclear weapons, some states refuse to acknowledge this truth. Instead, a new reality is produced that is conducive to narrow and divisive aims. It is a false assumption that national security and global security are not mutually exclusive, particularly regarding nuclear weapons. It is also a false assumption to promote multilateralism and international peace and security while concurrently stockpiling and developing these tools of mass destruction. Furthermore, the current global environment has been turned on its head. At a time when news reports show the Atlantic Ocean dotted with a record number of potentially devastating storms, forest fires are concurrently raging all over the globe. Simultaneously, we're all facing the COVID-19 pandemic that has disrupted every budget, national plan, and strategy of every single UN member state. One area, however, that seems to be unaffected is military spending, with billions of dollars dedicated to modernizing nuclear weapons arsenal. There are even media reports of plans to initiate a resumption of nuclear testing. The United Nations must be genuinely united as we face the multiplicity of threats that blanket us all. The last thing we need is to be concerned with the fallout of nuclear detonation. I fear that none of us are equipped. Mr. President, in closing, my country stands with the international community to make a commitment towards a world free of nuclear weapons in the best interests of our common humanity. There are, however, a few points of optimism. The upcoming NPT Review Conference and the imminent coming into force of the TPNW are opportunities to be more hopeful at the next gathering of this August body in 2021. We must reject the destructive and false narrative of nuclear deterrence and embrace a future free of these devastating weapons. This vital principle was a guiding reason for the establishment of the United Nations 75 years ago. Let us answer the call of multilateralism and work together to further this goal, to ensure the future we all want and the future that generations in the future deserve. I thank you.